The word vanity is so huge. The word vanity has so many advantages, disadvantages. Think about it. Vanity, a person or a behavior. I'm not going to say a person, but the behavior. So we talk about the word vanity, right? We're vain, a behavior that is vain, a behavior that can only see itself, a behavior that can't be considerate or compassionate about anything or anyone else, a behavior that prevents or precludes someone from giving positive or nurturing feedback. Vanity. You ever have a conversation with someone, you tell them what you're feeling or what you're going through, and in the interim, they either tell you what they're going through, one up what you're feeling or what you're experiencing, or they shut down and tell you that they can't offer you advice or that they can't offer feedback because they don't know or they're unfamiliar with what it is that you're going through. And that part I can understand. Everybody's not going to be familiar what it is that you're going through or what it is that you're feeling or what it is that you're experiencing at the moment. But I think one of the worst things that we can do is we flip it. You ever talk to someone and you're going through what you're going through and they flip it? They flip the conversation to make it feel or seem like an attack. And those behaviors are the behaviors that puts us in spaces where we don't feel like we're supported. We say we need support, and when we describe what support is and what it can look like and what we can get from it, how we should conclude or draw from whatever it is that the person can offer us, they can't offer anything at all because they're too busy being attacked. And those are the spaces that we live in often. Those are the spaces where we feel bother me or hurt me or things that I need to share to get off my mind because at that moment I'm feeling how I feel. And we should have that opportunity. We should have the opportunity and the space to go to someone we consider as a trusted voice, a trusted advisor, or someone we can lean on, that lending ear. We should have that. We should be able to have that. We should be able to talk to someone, tell them what we're feeling, tell them what's bothering us, what's on our minds. We should have that, especially if you are that person sometimes for people who are going through similar situations. I think the biggest issue is that vanity takes a toll in spaces where people should be considerate of something that someone else has to say. People should be considerate about other people's feelings, especially if you want someone to be considerate of yours. We should be considerate in most cases and lend the ear. And the crazy thing is, when you do listen, you may not have all the answers. You may not be able to provide feedback, especially the feedback that a person is looking for. But when you are a person's trusted advisor, when you are a person, when you're the person that people look forward to, when you're the person that people look up to, when you're the person that people want to share their stories with, and they feel like you could give them, even if you can't give them advice, listen with care and compassion. It's the ear that matters. It's not always the words you can provide. It's not always the words that you can lend to someone to help them focus and do better. Sometimes it's the ear, and that ear has to be compassionate. And people who need a compassionate ear, people who need advice, or people who just need someone to listen, they can tell when your ears are not on. They can tell when your ears are not there for them. They can tell when you're just talking and they're just there. And the sad thing is, sometimes the person who's often looking to someone to give them feedback or just listen is the person they count on the most. Unhealthy behaviors are not tricky. Unhealthy behaviors are what they are. And that's exactly what my podcast is about. The Beth B Shift is about unhealthy behaviors, how to see them, how to spot them. When you see it, you can't unsee it, and what you have to do to move forward. It's not your responsibility to always make up for someone else's shortcomings. And I'm not pointing fingers at people because that's not what I do. I'm not a specialist in identifying a person as having an unhealthy behavior, but what I do know is an unhealthy behavior. And when we see that unhealthy behavior, how do we move forward? How do we move forward? What do we say to ourselves that puts us in a space where we keep dealing with unhealthy behaviors? When you spot it, how do you keep abandoning yourself to make sure that someone else's feelings are satisfied? That's not fair. Unhealthy behaviors become an unhealthy situation for you. If you keep minimizing what it is that you're feeling, what you're going through, what it is that you have to say, you keep your words to yourself, you never get to speak. And when you do, they fall on deaf ears. How do you manage that? How do we manage that? How do we move forward? And then who do you go to? Do you keep going to yourself? Do you hold it in? Do you not say anything? What is the response to that? How do we keep doing that? Thank you guys for joining the live. I appreciate you guys. But this is very, very important. Give feedback if you are feeling the same way. Unhealthy behaviors can cause us to abandon our feelings, our emotions. Unhealthy behaviors force us to be in a space where we don't want to think about how we need support, how feedback from a person can help us be in a better situation. And then when you're always there for someone and you realize that sometimes you're your only ear, sometimes you're the only ear you have. It's not fair for us to always listen to ourselves, especially when we take the time to listen to others. Unhealthy behaviors and patterns, how people want you to show up for them, how people want you to talk to them, talk for them, talk through them, give them advice, show them things that they're unfamiliar with, be the voice when they're naive to a situation. It's not always good and it's not always fair. But what happens in that space is we minimize ourselves, and that's not good. That's not good. We need to learn to listen to one another. We need to learn to be okay with listening to other people's struggles. We need to learn how to give people positive feedback, even in a space that's unfamiliar to us. We're not always going to have the answers. And I would promise I would never pretend to have the answers. But there comes a time when we have to be willing to be compassionate enough to listen to other people, understand what other people are going through, help them identify the unhealthy behaviors, especially when there's an angst and they need positive reinforcements. This is what we need. We need support. We need to support one another. It's very important that we do that. And I don't know, I'm not sure if you guys have watched the Beth B Shift, but that's what it is. There's a shift that happens once you realize and you identify an unhealthy behavior, you see it and you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, what do you do? What do you do to support yourself? What do you do to be better? What do you do so that you can feel better and support yourself? I know it's good sometimes to have people that are watching you, that are caring for you, that are compassionate, and that have a advice and a lending ear can give positive or negative feedback. Maybe you're in a situation where you need just the support and a lending ear, someone to be quiet and listen with compassion. Maybe we need that sometimes. That's sometimes exactly what we need. But then when we offer nothing, the expectation can't be that we are always expecting someone to be the ear when we need someone to listen. What do you guys think? Has there ever been a time where you needed someone to listen? Has there ever been a time where you needed someone to just have a compassionate ear, listening to what you have to say, and whether it makes sense to them or not, just being in a space where you can share what you're feeling. Sometimes that's the most important thing. Just having someone who's readily available to listen with compassion. We don't always have the answers. People are not always going to have the answers, but we have to be mindful. Unhealthy behaviors are what they are. And when you see them, you have to act on it and be in a space where you're okay with it. Because a lot of times we'll see the unhealthy behaviors. We'll see how someone doesn't have compassion for what we say. They don't have compassion for our feelings. They don't think about what it is that we're going through. They're not considerate enough to listen and focus and be in a space with us where they can give positive feedback. Sometimes we can see that. We can see that unhealthy behavior. And the issue is sometimes that unhealthy behavior forces us in a space where we shut down, we get quiet, we don't say anything, we hold everything in. And that's where it becomes unsafe. We can't hold everything in because no one's listening. But you also can't speak to deaf ears because no one wants to listen. We have to learn how to support ourselves. We have to learn how to manage these processes in spaces where no one is available. And that's important. That's truly important. It is important for us to not only identify the unhealthy behavior, realize that we can't change the unhealthy behavior, but in that space, learn how to support yourself. And that takes time. It takes time because you have to dismiss those intrusive thoughts that make you feel like you're not worthy, you're unhealthy, you're saying something that makes no sense, you're talking for no reason, or maybe you're impossible because what you're feeling is unnecessary, untrue, or just not real. And that's not the case. Your feelings are valid. What you say, what you think, and what you feel is valid. And even if you're the only one to validate yourself, that still matters because vanity will f- have a situation where you are talking to a person. The person misunderstands what you're saying. They lack the communication skills or they lack the ability to care. There is no compassion. And in that space, they will flip it and make you feel that what you're saying is the problem. When you're the one with the problem, they turn it and flip it and make it about themselves. We have to recognize some unhealthy behaviors because those unhealthy behaviors force us to believe that what we have to say doesn't matter. That we shouldn't say it because no one can or will listen. And that's not always the case. Be mindful of yourself. Be mindful of yourself and what it is that you need to say. The expectation can't always be met with someone who's going to be compassionate with what you're going through. But you have the right to experience life experiences that are human because we're human. And it's not always healthy to hold on to something and think, oh, I'm going to pay you back because you didn't listen to me. No, support yourself. Support yourself. Know what you need to do for yourself. And those are the spaces where we need to learn how to take care of ourselves, how we need to love ourselves, be compassionate for ourselves. Think about outside the box. Think outside the box. What's outside the box for me? If I'm going through something and there's no one to listen to what it is that I have to say, if there's no one to give positive feedback, if everyone I'm speaking to is flipping it and making me seem ridiculous, what can I do compassionately to manage myself? What can I do to support myself? How can I give myself feedback? Sometimes we got to journal. Sometimes we have to pray. Well, in every case, if you're a prayer. I would pray because that is the go-to for me. But never let any person who is vain, too vain to hear, to be compassionate, to be considerate of what it is that you have to say, what you're going through, to convince you to believe that what you're going through is not real or that you shouldn't say it at all. You're a person and you're human and you deserve to be heard. And unfortunately, everybody that hears your story may not hear you. And in some cases, that makes us feel like we'll never be heard. But that is not the case. We have a right to speak. We have a right to talk. We have the right to feel how we feel. Our feelings are valid. We are human. So everything we experience in life is always going to be a learning lesson. But at the end of the day, don't base your thoughts and what you're going through on your ability to talk. Don't allow someone else to dictate what you can do or how you respond. You have the right to respond as a human being. You have the right to have feelings. You have the right to feel how you feel. You have the right to want to be validated, but that's not necessary to be heard within. That inner voice that you have that tells you that what you're saying, what you're thinking, and what you're feeling is okay because it's okay not to be okay. That's okay. Because the person who's not listening to you is probably not okay themselves. Sometimes we expect people who just don't have it to give us something that they just don't have. And if they don't have it, we have to be mindful that they're just one person. There are 8 billion people in this world. And I'm not saying we're going to talk to all 8 billion. I'm not even saying we're going to talk to 10,000. But what I do know is this: we have the right to feel how we feel, especially when we feel it. Nobody gets to shut that down. Nobody gets to force you to believe that what you have to say is not important. Your feelings are always valid, and so are mine. I always have the right to feel and say what it is that I'm thinking and what is on my heart and that troubles me the most. If I tell that information to someone who does not care, can not care. Two differences. Does not care. That's a choice. Cannot care. That's an impairment. But either one, however that goes, they cannot, do not. It's up to you to decide what you do next. It's up to you to decide how you manage. It's up to you to decide what you can do to do better for yourself. Strategize. Figure it out. Sometimes it takes a pen and a piece of paper to figure it out. Sometimes you got to write things down and attack one task, one thing at a time. Sometimes that's just it. But what you cannot do is allow unhealthy behaviors and vanity to overtake you. You can't allow vanity to put you in a space that makes you feel that you don't matter. You can't allow vanity to put you in a space where you feel that you'll never be validated. Because think about validation. What is it? It's someone else agreeing with your opinion or your thoughts, which means that their opinion is in alignment with your own. But if you don't have that alignment, if you don't have that opinion that is in alignment with yours, that doesn't mean that you're not valid. It just means someone doesn't understand what you're going through. And sometimes you are the only person that needs to understand what you're going through. And that's just it. And if that's the case, you find your way. You find yourself out of that box you're in. Don't wait for somebody to come and open that box for you. Don't wait for somebody to come and cut the tape and open the lids and say, hey, you're free. No, you free yourself. Because in most cases, unhealthy behaviors don't want to see you free. They like to see you in the box. And sometimes we just have to be mindful of that. Sometimes we talk to people who with unhealthy behaviors and they like the mess and the mayhem, but you can't allow that to put you in a position where you cannot do better, feel better. Sometimes your opinion is the only opinion that matters. Sometimes you matter. Sometimes only you matter. And sometimes we got to be mindful of who it is that we're talking to. I know we started off with the word vanity, but if you research it and look it up, there's a song, You're So Vain. I bet you probably think this song is about you. I think that's the words. If you go and listen to those words, the lady rocked out because if you listen to the words, listen to the lyrics, read the lyrics because she's talking to someone and she's trying to share something, but the person that thinks she's talking about them, she's not talking to. But they're so vain and full of themselves. They think the song is about them and they're offended. And in most cases, that's what happens. Sometimes we go to people for advice and we look for things and we try to figure out what we should do. The unfortunate thing is, everything that we're saying, they think we're talking about them, and everything is an attack. People aren't always attacking you because they're asking for advice. People aren't always attacking you because they're asking for your opinion. And people are definitely not attacking you when they come to you for information that's unfamiliar to you. And if you can't deal with it, be compassionate enough to say, yeah, that's not my area of expertise. I don't know anything about that, sis. I wish I could help you, but I don't know. Don't shuck them off because you can't answer the question. But if they do shuck you off because they can't answer the question, you got to move on. Don't stay where you don't belong. And until we speak again, y'all know exactly what Beth B says. Stay grounded.